Good morning, YouTube friends and family. So, doing another little rate comparison. Um, this one's for the Los Angeles market. In other videos, I've made comments that a lot of freight heading west goes really cheap, and that's primarily because people are trying to get better paying loads out of the west. And so, let's dig into it a little bit. Um, This is the DAT board. Again, I don't have the subscription. I'm not paying for it anymore because I use a dispatch service, and they pretty much take care of it. So at the two at the top, I've seen loads like this before, and what these are, they're almost like a dedicated contract, but they're not. So what they have is probably multiple loads over a period of time, and it's going to pay $8,000 by the time you do them all. Unfortunately, without having the subscription, I can't open them up and show you guys what they are. But they're probably a whole bunch of short loads from, you know, from the same place back and forth. Um, some of those can be fruitful, just depending on if you get the right one. These say 25,000 pounds, so you're not running 40,000 pounds. But if, for example, it's a series of a whole bunch of trips to Vegas where where you're climbing that hill every day, it'll burn your fuel up pretty quick. But those are just ones you need to call on and find out and negotiate. So here's one to Roanoke, Virginia. It's 2,400 miles for $7,000. So it's not exactly $3 a mile, but it's some decent rate. You'll make, $7,000 in probably 3 days. There's a load going from Downey to Connecticut. That's barely over $2 a mile. Rates have gone down in California also. And so there's 3,000 miles for $6,400. There's a load going to Mass, a little over $2 a mile, $6,000. That's a long haul for $6,000. If I were interested in it, I would definitely want to negotiate a little better on that. There's a load out of Ontario. That's barely over $2 a mile. This is a load going to Jersey, 15,000 pounds for, $6,200. That's at least a little better because it's lighter. You'll burn less fuel. There's one going to New York, $6,000 for almost 2,700 miles. There's another one to Syracuse. I was just through the Syracuse area not too long ago, and the weather's a consideration, especially at night. You get definitely the icing, and so those are in the $2 a mile range. They're not threes, unfortunately. And so there's another load to New York for $6. So rates have definitely dropped, even coming out of the LA market. That big Christmas surge has obviously passed, right? And so there's 2,770 miles for $5,600 going to Jersey. There's another one going to Jersey for 5,500. There's another 5,500 going out in the Jersey area. There's one going to Virginia for 55. Ontario to North Carolina. Right before Thanksgiving, I took a load going to North Carolina. In fact, I went to Charlotte, and I got almost $9,000. And it was much lighter than that. And so the market's definitely shifting. There's 2,700 miles for 5,500 going to Jersey. There's a load going to Florida for $5,400. There's another South Carolina for $5,300. there's $5,300 for 2,500 miles, but at least it's a lighter load, 17,000 pounds. This one doesn't show weight. Doesn't necessarily mean you can't call on it. There's one going to Florida for 52. 2,700 miles for $5,100. So the rates are definitely dropping. You know, it really boils down to, you know, people not taking these loads, and then these brokers will have to go back and ask for more. I can tell you that when my dispatcher calls and tells me, hey, you know, there's a load going this way, this is what it weighs, you know, I'm asking for this, he's calling up the client and see if they'll go for it. You know, don't let a broker tell you this is all I have in it. You can, you know, you can ask for more. And if you have a good broker, he'll go back to the client and say, I have a carrier, they're ready now, but this is what they're wanting. And a good broker will get you approval on some stuff that's a little better. So there's a load going to Jersey, 5,000 for 2,700 miles. And so that's about the going rate. That's about the going rate. Looks like rates have dropped substantially. Now there's a really, I guess they keep going down, right? So there's $4,800 for 2,700 miles. At least that one going to Ohio's less miles, 2,200 miles for $4,800. There's a load going to Miami. It's only 6,500 pounds for $4,800. There's another Ohio for 4,500. South Carolina for 4,400. There's a load to Carlisle for 4,200. There's a Georgia load for 4,200. A load to Louisville for 4,100. At the very least, it's only a 15,000 pound load. There's an Atlanta load for 4,000. Atlanta's freight tends to be really cheap. There isn't a whole lot of freight out of there to begin with. And what you'll find happens is a lot of people that took these loads going down to Florida that couldn't find anything end up deadheading up into Atlanta. And so the Atlanta market kind of ends up flooded, in my opinion. So there's a Teams load, 1,600 miles for $4,000. Unlike Amazon, at least this pays a little bit better for your team. You know, that's over your $2 a mile. It's a little better than the Amazon rate, at least. So there's a 4,000 pound load, pays $4,000 for 2,100 miles. A 4,000 pound load, your truck's going to roll like it's empty. And so if you can work with the rate, you'll at least have a little bit of fuel savings. There's another Teams load. That one's pretty cheap. There's a load into Tennessee, 3,000 miles for $2,800. There's a load to Ohio for $3,800. There's a load into Houston for $2,750. There's a load to Indy for $3,700 for 2,000 miles. There's a load at Georgia, 3,700. Yeah, the market's definitely shifted a little bit. You know, LA used to be the place everyone wanted to go because the rates are supposedly better. There's a load into Cheyenne, 1,055 miles for 3,500 bucks. It's a full load, and if you're, you know, if you're from that area and you can deal with the weather and the chains and everything else, you know, I know there's guys running up that way all the time, and so, you know, there's money if you know that fits your skill set and you can do that. There's a 2,000-mile load for 3,500 bucks. It's only 10,000 pounds in payload. There's a load going to Memphis for 3,500 bucks, 15,000 pounds. There's a load to Mississippi, 30,000 pounds, 1,700 miles for 3,500. Yeah, some of these rates are pretty bad. But there's an abundance of freight. There's quite a bit of freight available. And so if you call in or if you have a dispatcher calling in, you know, that's kind of where you need to negotiate better and just understand there's a lot of freight there. So here you have three loads. They're 10,000 pounds apiece going to Aurora, Colorado, and they're at 3,250. Again, if running up that way is something you can do, you know, that's not bad money. That's well over $3 a mile. The concern there would be running into closed roads. So here's a team load going to Dallas. It's a 10,000 pound load, 1,400 miles for 3,200 bucks. I'd like to see that paid better because it's a team load, but it kind of looks like it's not the same market it was a couple months ago. There's a load of Minneapolis, 10,000 pounds, 27 foot. They're calling it a partial, which usually means you kind of have an open schedule. They'll usually give you a little bit more time to get it there. And so the rate per mile is not great, but if you can find another partial to put that with, it might be fruitful for you. You know, if you can get another 2,000 to 3,000 bucks heading that way, all of a sudden you're 5 to 6 grand for, you know, under 2,000 miles. There's a load to Denver, just about $3 a mile. There's a load to Plainview, Texas, 1,100 miles for 3,100 bucks. So it's like anything else. There's good and there's bad, and then there's really bad, right? And so let's switch to another board, see what else is there. This is Coyote. I can't really click on the load itself because Coyote's board's a little different. It's going to show you who, what, where, when, and why, and they make you sign a disclosure thing. So this is about as much as I dare to show. It doesn't show the rates. Everything's kind of a bid with them, but at the very least you can see they have freight. So there's a Commerce to Santa Clara. That's within California. There's Southgate out to Ohio. There's a load to Salt Lake City, It's only 15,000 pounds. There's a load to Illinois, a load to Arizona. That's a full load at 45,499. There's a little local run. There's another local run within Cali. There's a load going to Phoenix at about 44,000 pounds. There's a load going to Northern California, 17,000 pounds. And that's all they have. And so I'm showing it just in case anyone has curiosity about Coyote. Frankly, I'd never heard of them before I went over the road. And again, their load board is kind of difficult because everything's a bid, and I won't open up any of these because if this load going to Ohio in the middle of the screen is going to, for example, a Walmart distribution center, the minute you click on this, it shows, you know, who the receiver is, their address, contact information, and, you know, I don't need the legal trouble for sharing that publicly. Here's Amazon. Right now I have it set to show trailer required because the other boards for the most part are not power only loads. I'll switch it up a little bit just for those that want to see that. So Amazon's got, you know, $4.44 a mile from Spring Valley, which is down towards San Diego, up into Fontana. There's City of Industry to Aurora, Colorado, $2,900. There's another one from Chino to Aurora, Colorado, $2,300. You know, and these load here in a little bit. I'm not sure if that's where they're going to peak. That may be all they're going to give. There's a load going to Portland for $234. There's a load to Salem for $254. There's a load heading out to Vegas. $800 seems to be the norm to Vegas, but then the problem is coming back from Vegas can be tough. So you really got to make your money on the way there. There's a load going to Utah, $254 a mile. Another load to Vegas at $334 a mile. There's a load heading to NorCal, $217 a mile. There's another load to Aurora. And so if you look at this rate, you know, the Amazon rate is actually a little bit less than what the open load board was. The one at the top here going to Aurora, if you remember, those loads were paid a little bit better than this, at least if I remember correctly. Hopefully I'm not wrong. But they have a few of them going, and they don't load till tomorrow at 6 a.m., so they may go up just another tick, you know, before load time tomorrow. There's a Salt Lake City load for $213, and let's see, another Salt Lake City, $213. There's a Portland for $194. Salt Lake City, $215. Portland, $194. Coppell, Texas for $194. I've made that trip to Coppell, Texas, to FTW2, which is, it's basically right there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I think I got like $5,100, and this was like the middle of summer last year. Again, you know, all these load boards are playing on the fact that they know a lot of us are sitting with no work, and we just need to work so we can make our insurance payment. And so they're putting these things cheap. Now, in Amazon's defense, the load doesn't load till tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm pretty comfortable with the idea that it's going to go up a bit more overnight tonight before someone grabs it. There's probably someone wanting that load right now, and they're watching it. And once it hits their price point, they're going to grab it. At least that's what I hope. I hope people wait for them to go up. So there's a Salt Lake City 213, 194 to Brookshire. Brookshire's like halfway between San Antonio and Houston. Brookshire is one of Amazon's facilities there. The upside is if you work the load board for Amazon and you only run Amazon, you can try and grab a load from Igloo, which is literally right next door. Let me show that real quick. And so this is the Amazon location under construction still. Oh, actually they got the drop pin in the wrong place. So there's your Amazon location. That's a Costco distribution center. I've been there a couple times also. And then right over here is Igloo. There's usually outbound loads from Igloo. And then the upside to going here is you've got a truck stop here. And then you got a truck stop here. If you guys are making this trip, a little hack, this Flying J will be jam-packed. This little truck stop across the street has like no real amenities, and there's always parking there. If you guys are ever coming there, there's always parking there. And another little hack, Jessica's Express, over here the food is pretty good, and inside of this truck stop is another little Mexican restaurant. I know I bring up food a lot. Sorry, I like to eat, but the grub there is pretty good. Anyway, I'll move back on. So here's another little short load, Victorville to Riverside. Victorville is what they call the high desert, kind of on your way to Vegas. There's a load to Salem, Oregon for $1.94. Again, the load's not till tomorrow. It'll probably go up. There's another load to FTW2 over in Coppell, Texas. Another thought, guys, if you're looking to book a load going into that Fort Worth area, if you go to FTW2 versus going to FTW1, FTW2 will get you out in about half the time that FTW1 will. FTW2 will make you drop your trailer and park off-site, just like FTW1, but you won't sit in line for 2.5 or 3 hours just to get to the gate. You'll get in and out much quicker. There's a load going to Reno. If you take a load like this, remember to bring your chains. You have to go over the Donner Pass, and they will cite you about $1,000 if you don't have your chains on you, even if it's not snowing. There's a load to Aurora for $1.94. There's a load to Wisconsin, $1.38. In all fairness, that doesn't load till Wednesday. So let's stop looking at Amazon because these loads are they're showing at a lower price than what they'll probably book for. At least what I hope they'll book for. Hope people aren't taking them cheaper. So here we have Convoy. Convoy doesn't seem to have a whole lot of long distance loads. A lot of their loads are shorter. You know, and as I'm saying it, there's a load staring me in the face for 1,000 miles, and it's not a bad paid load at that. And so I guess I got to eat my words there, but they're rare to find. So anyways, Victorville to Tracy for $1,000 is not bad. You'll do that load easily within a day. In fact, you can see here you pick up at 8 a.m., you unload at 19:30. That's $1,000 a day, which is kind of my goal to make. And at only 354 miles, you're not going to burn a ton of fuel to do that. And then remember, California has that 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, so your fuel economy will be even better, I believe. And so I'm curious about this one because it's not a bad paying little load. So from Fullerton, California, it's going to Washington. That's why it pays well. You'll struggle to get out of Washington. For some reason, I was thinking it was Wisconsin, but still $3,400 to go into Washington. That's pretty good money. Long Beach to San Diego, Oxnard to Fontana. Um, I haven't done that load, but their loads coming out of Oxnard is typically out of Procter and Gamble, and my dad retired from there. They load you to the gills. Yeah, see, it's a Procter and Gamble load, and so you'll be they call it New Venture Logistics, but it's Procter and Gamble. Anyway, um, expect to leave there fully loaded, and there's a scale as you leave, probably 15 miles up the road, so you got to make sure you go weigh yourself first. Um, Fontana to Lincoln, California, that's a bid. And then they got these multiple stop loads. I don't really like doing those. Um, I think they just tie up too much of your time. And then these dedicated contracts, I kind of talked about those in my last video. What they'll do is they'll allow you to bid this, like this Ontario to Tracy. It's a year-long deal, 52 weeks. It's a 52-week contract. All of these contracts, basically you bid, and then they'll give you, it'll be a dedicated contract. The drawback, of course, is if you take a contract going from Ontario to Tracy, you're on your own to get back. And so if you don't have loads coming back, you may find yourself with some deadhead loads, and what you think is a great contract may turn into a money loser. So 52 weeks, up to 27 per week, 360 miles, consumer goods, dry van. You submit a bid. And so it's in part why we don't see as many loads on Convoy's load board, because there's a lot of loads, kind of like Amazon did, where they're doing the short-term contracts. And so these loads, we won't see these in the load board. Once someone gets a dedicated contract, as you can see, there's up to 27 loads per week. And I believe what they do, I got a buddy that has one of these, and so the way he said it works is he's pulling loads out of Fontana to Phoenix, and there's 13 loads a week heading out of that way. And so what they do is the person with the lowest bid secures that contract, and then everyone progressively that has a higher bid is next in line to get loads. He said depending on how many the previous contractor commits to will determine how many they're going to commit to you. And so he's been offered 3, but he can pass on them, and then the next higher bid goes to the next guy. But whatever he commits to, if he commits to 3, he's got to do like 2/3 of them. In other words, he can only turn down 1 a week. He's got to do 2 of them. Hope I explained that well. Anyway, so that's kind of what they have on the load board. The rest of these are also local. And so, let's see what else we have. Here's XPO, Long Beach to Modesto. Modesto's Northern California. That's not a bad load, $1,000 to go to Northern California. Unloads first thing tomorrow, $325 a mile. San Pedro to Dinuba, $357 a mile. Electronics, so it'll be really light. They may require higher cargo insurance. I have found that sometimes on electronics they require $250,000. That requirement was asked of me last year, and I ended up just passing on it because I didn't have that coverage. So here's a load to New York, $168 a mile. I I think I would pass on that. I don't think I really have a desire for something like that. There's 214 going to Oregon, another 214 going to Oregon. There's a load to Abilene, Texas for $1.69, $1.71. That's actually going to Mexico. Let's see if I can show that. And so, you know, unless you've got all the stuff to travel to Mexico and you're brave enough, that's going to Mexico. There's a load going to Phoenix with food. That one's just one you bid. 7,200 pounds, and they don't have a price on it. You submit your bid. The good thing with these people, if you submit a bid, they do get back to you quickly. You'll know within a few minutes if you got it or not. So there's a load going to Casa Grande, Arizona, just under $3 a mile. That's not too bad. You can do that in a day. There's $1.73 a mile going to New York. There's a Colorado load for $1.81. 241 going to Colorado. That seems cheap for Colorado. A load going to Oregon for $2.79. There's a load to Goodyear for $2.82. £20,000 worth of electronics. Almost $3 a mile going to Oregon. Phoenix for $2.79. Aurora for almost $3 a mile. See, on something like that, you could probably bid 3 1/4, and you'd probably get it. Here's $2.14 a mile going to Oregon. Personally, I think that's cheap. $2.14 a mile heading out to Oregon as well. There's another load to Abilene, Texas, $1.69. There's a short haul, you know, $400. It takes up most of your day, and so that's almost like taking some of those Amazon loads. Is it really worth it? You know, everybody's got their own idea there. If you have a little day cab and you run it around town and you're making money with it and it's paid for, I guess a load like that works for you. There's a load going from Ontario to Shafter. That's actually not a bad gig. Shafter's right at the bottom of the grade there, kind of on the outskirts of Bakersfield. $700. Not a difficult load. It's light. I'd consider that. There's another inter-California one. See, I'd probably rather do that Shafter load at $4.41 a mile than to do this load at, you know, $2.12 a mile. But that's just my opinion. Here's a $2.41 a mile load. A load heading out to Wisconsin. It's super duper light, but holy cow, $1.48 a mile. There's a load to Mira Loma. It's just really, really short. You know, again, this is more like an Amazon quick short move. It's a 10-mile load. Honestly, if you could get like 3 or 4 of these in a day, I'd say sure, but that'd be tough to book. There's a load going to Phoenix, $2.68. I think it's a little on the cheap side. My dispatcher can get me grocery loads. I just remembered, I mentioned this in another video. It's Winco Foods. Winco Foods distributes their food out of Phoenix, and they have daily routes coming into California, and so you can almost select the route you want. There's routes all over Southern California with them. The last one I did ended in Palmdale, which is a little over an hour's drive to home, and so that one worked out for me pretty good, and it was not a heavy load. It was 3 stops. I think I had like a Victorville, a Palmdale, and a Lancaster, something like that. Anyway, there's Fontana to Colorado, $2.41 a mile. There's another little short haul. There's one going to Greenburgh, Pennsylvania for just barely over $2 a mile. The only upside is it being medical supplies. You know, you could potentially play that like a COVID load and run HOS exempt. There's a local run, 10 miles for $2.76. You know, again, if you can put some of these together, if you can piece together 3 or 4 of these things in a day, it wouldn't be so bad. But, you know, so this one says you pick up at 11 on the 27th, and then you deliver on the 28th, but it says call to confirm time. And so you're only going 10 miles. So if you pick up at 11, why can't you go drop this off, say at 1 or 2 that afternoon, and then maybe go grab yourself another quick load somewhere else for 3 hours? This thing where they want you to deliver the next day makes it where loads like that just aren't worth it. Anyway, the dates are pushing off here, and so to compare it to everything else we've looked at, we've probably looked at enough. I think that was the last board I had up. Yep. Anyway, that's a LA market breakdown, guys. I just wanted to show you guys what was there. I commented a couple times that the rates were much better leaving LA, but apparently it's dropping. It's not as good as I thought. Anyway, thanks for watching.